what's up everybody? So for the IR3 system, I'm Aaron Guyette, one of the owners of Innovative Results, and I will be going over Kettlebell. Last week for our progressions we did power ropes, so this week we're going to start with Kettlebell. The first thing you need to understand with Kettlebell, the way that we've been taught it, the way we've been coached by OKC, Orange Kettlebell Club, as well as IKSFA. I don't even know what all those stand for. No, I'm just kidding. Those are our Russian counterparts. They are all masters of sport in kettlebell. They came to our facility here and gave us a rundown. I am not the expert. I am not trying to say that I'm an expert, but I do understand the biomechanics of the body. I do understand how the body works in terms of periodization. You'll have to forgive the airplane. They're just prepping my jet, getting it ready for me to leave to Russia tomorrow. That's actually a lie. I'm sorry. No, so basically with the biomechanics of the body, I do understand that. And with their help and their expertise, I was able to really realize the most efficient ways for me to do kettlebell. So if you excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and take off my rings so I don't ruin them and piss my wife off. And we'll be going over the hip hinge for the first part. Okay, so hip hinge is, here's your hip, and the hip hinge is one of the most important movements in kettlebell, especially with the way the IKSFA guys do it. You're taking the bell way back deep and using the glute and hamstring and quad, helping to drive that weight forward, right? And then the hips come actually forward where they wouldn't usually be. Now, why that's not going to put tension on the back is the bell is actually going to be pulling my arm this way, right? Relaxing and opening up those back vertebrae, right? Where they would normally be impinged because of that momentum up here, it's actually pulling my back forward. So I'm going to drive that weight forward, and then from there you either do rack or you do snatch or whatever it is that your expertise is or what you want to do. So that being said, we'll get into a couple of drills that we're going to use to help that hip hinge out. The first one, I'm actually going to be facing the wall, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and press out from the wall. Press out from the wall. Now this is going to be important when you're in the rack position as well as when you're doing your hip hinge, swinging that kettlebell up in your swings, okay? And the next one, I'm going to go heels on the wall, butt on the wall, upper back on the wall, head on the wall, right? And then if I want to test my shoulder mobility, right here, even down here, okay, shoulder mobility isn't going to come into play until we start getting that kettlebell up and over my head. But from here, I'm hip hinging forward. Obviously, I can't go that far, otherwise I'm going to fall forward. All my weight's on my toes. If I step my feet out though, I'm going to practice tall spine, wide shoulder, hip hinge down, come back up, head and shoulders meeting the wall at the same time, down, back up, down, back up. Okay, I'm going to flip-flop those. I'm going to do 10 sets on one side and then 10 sets on the other. Then I'm going to go in, so I've got my mobility and stability part of hip hinge. Then I'm going to go into my Hindu push-up and my glute bridge, right? The strength and stability part of the hip hinge. So glute bridge, I'm going to be down here. My feet are driving down, shins forward, thighs back, all 4 points of my feet driving into the ground. Tall spine, wide shoulders. My feet are about hip width apart, depending on how you swing that kettlebell, right, is where you're going to put your feet. If you're doing double bells, it's going to be a little wider. If you're doing single bells, it's going to be at the most efficient spot for your body. And then from here, I'm just at my hip hinge, and then I'm going to go ahead and drive those hips up. Squeezing the glute, driving it up, feet driving down, shin forward, thigh back. Right now, if your feet are tweaking in or they're tweaking out, you can actually pull your feet together or push them apart to counter that right? To try to create better structural alignment in this glute bridge. Boom. So I'll do 10 of those, and then I'm going to go over to my Hindu squat, right? I'm going to start in my hip hinge here, and then I'm going to drive chest and hips forward, and then drive my hips back. Keep my arms locked out. Chest, hips forward, drive my hips back. Chest, hips forward, drive my hips back. So I'll do 10 of each of those for 10 sets as well. The last thing that I'm going to do, right, we'll come over here to our C-bands, and I'm going to grab a C-band. I'm going to hook it up on the wall. And with or without a kettlebell, right, I'm going to practice that hip hinge again. 10 on one side. If I have the kettlebell. And I can actually pin that kettlebell here, right? Because that's not going to leave until my hips have gotten their full range of motion, and then it's going to start accelerating out, pulling forward, and I'm either pulling it up into a snatch, or I'm going up to just a rack, right? And I'm there at my rack. The other thing I'm going to do is flip it behind me. The problem is, it doesn't really stay on your butt. It'll end up sliding up my back. But if it stayed on my butt, it would be even better, right? This is going to force me to go back into my hip hinge, and then I'm swinging, coming all the way forward. And there it goes, flips up. So I can actually hold it here on my butt, drive back into my hip hinge, forward. So I'll do 10 of those as well for 10 sets. All right, thank you very much. That is hip hinge for kettlebell. Notice we didn't even start with the kettlebell yet.